few weeks ago, I was working with one of my CAD techs, CAD drafters. We were working on a project down in Merced, and we were dedicating some right-of-way for a new street in a land development. And I was tossing around some terms, right-of-way take, remainder parcel, excess parcel, and my CAD tech was like, what do those things mean? I don't understand. And I was happy to get that question. I appreciate it when my folks ask questions like that. They're trying to learn, which I appreciate. So what I wanted to do in this video was try and explain what those three things are. So what is a right-of-way take? What is a remainder parcel? And what is an excess parcel? Okay, so let's start with right-of-way take. What do I mean when I say right-of-way take? Okay, a right-of-way take is a parcel of property taken from a landowner for a right-of-way. It's a simple answer. Okay, so you're going to build a road or a highway or a pipeline or a levee. It's usually some kind of linear feature like that. And you come in and take some land from the landowner to get that done. It could be, I say take, it could be voluntarily sold to the agency, or the agency might get it through what we call condemnation. But in either case, you're taking some land from the landowner, and you're taking that for a right-of-way. That's what we call the right-of-way take. So that is the piece of property that is being taken to build the new right-of-way. Okay. So what's a remainder parcel? Okay, the remainder parcel is the usable portion of the parcel that remains after the right-of-way take. So if you can imagine in your mind, we've got a rectangular piece of property, and you're taking a strip in the middle for a road, right? You're left with two remainder parcels, right? One on each side of the road. As long as those are usable, I call them a remainder. That's a remainder parcel, okay? Now, that term usable is really important. Usable means you can still use it. You can still do something with it, right? Not usable means you can't do anything with it after the right-of-way take goes through. Okay, so that brings us to the third question. What is an excess parcel? Okay, an excess parcel, what I call an excess parcel, is a parcel that is left over after the right-of-way take goes through that is not usable. Okay, so if you imagine that same rectangular parcel, but this time our right-of-way goes through at an angle, and it just clips off a little triangular wedge on one corner. Okay, chances are that's not going to be usable by the person that owns the remainder on the other side. And so if it's not usable by that landowner, then that's what we call an excess parcel. And typically, not always, but typically, excess parcels end up going to the neighbor on the other side of the right-of-way. Okay? So what makes an excess parcel unusable? Typically, it's unusable for one of two reasons. Either because you cut off access to it, or because it's no longer conforming with the land use regulations, is what we call non-conforming. So that's the difference between an excess parcel and a remainder parcel. They're both left over after the right-of-way take goes through. A remainder parcel is usable, an excess parcel is not. It's excess, it's the waste that's left over. So why is this important? Well, one reason it's important is whether a parcel is a remainder or an excess has a lot to do with how much it's worth and how the government, it's typically a government, has to compensate the landowner for what they're taking. So if you go in and take a right-of-way and you leave the landowner with two usable pieces, two remainders, okay, then you don't have to pay him as much money, him or her, as you would if you went through, cut a right-of-way, and you have a remainder and an excess. You're going to have to compensate the landowner for the value of the excess parcel that he can no longer use, right? Even if it goes to the neighbor. What typically happens in that situation is the agency has to buy it. The government agency that's building the right-of-way, or the utility company that's building the right-of-way, they got to buy the excess parcel from the landowner, and then they got to sell it to the neighbor. That's typically how that works. So the landowner that's given up that excess has to be compensated. So it does make a big difference in the potential cost of a right-of-way project, and that's going to have an impact on how the right-of-way is designed, right? You can't just look at what's best for the physical design of whatever infrastructure you're putting in the ground, road, pipeline, canal. You also got to, when you do your route planning, your right-of-way planning, you got to try and place your right-of-way to minimize excess parcels, right? So the more excess parcels you have, the more your right-of-way is going to cost, and you don't want to do that, right? We want land use that is what we call efficient, right? We don't want wasted land, right? So if you can place your right-of-way in such a way, you want to place your right-of-way in such a way that it leaves the most usable land possible, right? You don't want to destroy the value of excess parcels because of how you placed your right-of-way. It can't always be avoided, those little excess pieces, but they can be minimized, and that's what you want to try and do. So there you go. Now you know the difference between a right-of-way take, the piece of property that you're actually taking for the right-of-way, the remainder parcel, the usable piece that's left over, and the excess parcel, that's the unusable piece that's left over That's the piece that usually has to go to the neighbor.